Okay, in my previous video, I showed you how to paint this. Then I cut it. And now I'm going to take a lightly sand it. You see everywhere I added the petroleum jelly, it came off, which is what I want. Now you can either use antiquing wax for the edges to give it that rustic old look. You can use brown paint, whatever you have on hand. And I just take a sponge, dab it off. Go around the edges, try and get some darker streaks. That's that. Now we'll come back and do this. Same process. I use this wood effect first. You can certainly use stain if you prefer. All right, once that is dry, I come back in with the paint colors I want. I always use a very wet brush because I like to kind of water down my paint a little bit. Come in with my next color. And do you see how the grain is not even? That's because I used a wet brush, and that's the kind of look I want. It gives it that variation, some dark in there, some lighter in there. You won't see this because that's being covered, but that's how the words on the Lucky are done. And then you could have, before I started drying, I could have even wiped it off and made it lighter in some spots. And so you see how it's not perfect here. On something like this where you want that really, really, really rustic feel, perfection is your enemy. So I'll come back in here a little bit more white paint just to kind of darken up. And again, you don't have to concentrate on the middle. You're not going to see that. And if you want a little bit more of a rustic feel when you sand it, just add a little petroleum jelly to the ends. That'll make the paint chip off when I'm about to give it its final coat. I'm going to take a little bit of so you see, I just added a little bit of white and it gave it some variation in the green. And again, when that dries, it's going to look very rustic, like it's been painted over a couple of times. I'm just going to do, oops, got a little green in there, it's fine. All right, I'm going to let that dry and I'll come back and show you what it looks like when it's sanded. All right, now I'm going to come back in and sand, and depending upon what kind of look you want, depends on the grit sandpaper you'll use. If you want something that's really rough, that's going to pull the paint, 150. Something a little bit more subtle, 220. I usually would do this with an orbital sander, but obviously because I'm here doing this as a tutorial, I'm gonna just hand sand it. Now, just note that when you're sanding, if you're sanding the white and you go into the green, you're gonna get white on the green. And again, not a big deal if you want that really rustic look, but if you want to kind of keep your colors separate, then I would say to switch and turn. So you see you're starting to get that look. Okay. It's really that simple. Now, again, come back in. I use my antiquing wax to give it these brown streaks. Again, you can use paint. You can use brown paint if you like. You can wipe it on with a sponge. You can paint it on with a brush, whatever you're comfortable with. I always dab it off because it does go a long way. Just kind of hit those edges. You want some darker streaks, just kind of take it on the edge. Basically, you're just taking this where that's the most minimal and literally dragging it across your project. Take it and just drag it. Obviously, this stuff will tone down your colors a bit, but you'll still get that variation. And that's part of it, all right? I will put that on the side. I may do a little bit more sanding of this to make it a little whiter. I think I want it a little whiter. But I do the same thing with this. The green or the gold. The gold, I'll do another coat over it, but I'll show you that in 1 second. Okay, now I'm just gonna do the Lucky. As you can see, I did again the rustic wood effect and let it dry. And now I'm just gonna come over and I'm going to dab on, wipe on. This is a gold, what is it? Gold metallic. I don't want it to look this shiny, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in back in here where I mixed a little bit of the gold metallic and some brown. And I'm gonna take a corner of that brush and kind of dab it in places. Again, giving it that kind of dirty wood finish, or dirty rustic finish is what I'm trying to say. So you see how that, you can see the different lines when you put them in. And so it may look like it's a textured, it's really not, it's just the painting technique. And you can go around the edges and just pull it in with that darker color. And it'll give you that kind of texture type look. It almost looks like gold foil, which actually you can probably really look nice on this gold foil. But and again, you know, this is always trial and error, right? What may look great one day, all of a sudden you can't seem to get it exactly the same. And that's the beauty of it. You don't want anything to actually look exactly the same. All right, so once I think I have what I want, I'll come back in here and pat down gold just so I can get some of that brown out, because I want to soften that now. It just does it a little bit. Basically, you're softening up some of the brown that you just put in, but I hope you can see that. Okay. All right, and I'll be back with the clover. It's the same process as we did on the green. All right, so I've added my base coat of that wood effect. Now I'm just gonna come in here and I'm trying not to get into the engraving. I wanna try and keep that, or sorry, the scoring. I wanna try and keep that as intact as possible. If you go over it lightly, you're not gonna get it in there. So I'll start out, and that brush is just not good. I again wet my brush and just start on the edges with my darker color, wipe the brush down, and then almost dry brush it. So I keep that engraving. Now I'm gonna wet the center a little bit. Because that's gonna give it that irregularity. If you can see how that, so now the paint is not sticking as well to the center. And you've got the darker bands on the end. I'm gonna come in here into that wet. kind of add a color, brush off or dry off my brush, and then dry brush. Now I'm going to come back in with the dark to kind of add that dimension around the edges, and again, I'm literally like wiping on the paint. So I don't know if you can see that from here. So the edges are much darker than the center. I want to keep it that way, but once this dries, I'm going to come back in again with the darker paint on the outside and just kind of give it some highlight. So I'll be right back. All right, so it's dry. Did a little bit of sanding. Now I'm just going to come in with a sponge into dark paint, if I can find my sponge. So it's the same color, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dab a touch of a darker green to just kind of give it a little bit more dimension. And I'm just going to go around the edge. And again, I want it rustic, so I want it kind of put the paint on, wipe it off, and just, it's layers. It's a layered type of look. All right, so then once you have everything, you put everything together. You'll have like a finished product. I hope this helps. I'll try and do some more tutorials on other painting techniques as the year goes by. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much. Have a great day.